Welcome to the show. I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Maggie.
And we are Friends on Fire.
And we're a podcast on a mission to get friends to talk about money.
So what's going on, Maggie?
I don't know. It's Thursday night, just kind of in the grind. It's a busy week. On Tuesday this week, I really felt like it was Friday. And it just feels like a long week.
I felt like it was Friday for the past 2 months.
Yeah, we're in week 8 of quarantine, I think.
Don't know. Week 8 or 80. It's all the
week
same.
23 and a half could be,
Yeah.
not sure. School's shortened by a week. I don't know. Life's great, though. I'm living the quarantine dream. That's what I like to say when people ask me how I'm doing.
The quarantine dream?
The quarantine dream, yep. Because as much as I can, find some things to vent about, I'm quite thankful and appreciative and gracious for all that we have during this difficult time, because we're not on the side of the people in this world who are as hardly hit by this. So I try not to complain. So we're
That's
doing
true.
good.
And from a podcast perspective, it's super easy to schedule interviews because nobody's going anywhere.
It is. Nobody has plans. Yeah.
And so you scheduled this interview today. I know you're really excited about it.
I'm super excited. We are interviewing Joel Larsgaard from the How to Money podcast. And this is a podcast I've listened to for a couple of years now. And I'm just really excited and kind of, fascinated to talk to Joel more. They also, he co-hosts the podcast with a friend of his named Matt. And Joel is just coming on by himself tonight. I think they divide and conquer just from a time standpoint when doing interviews. And so I'm excited that Joel is coming on tonight. And they both live in Atlanta, which is where we live. So it's kind of exciting to, as much as we're still recording from our own homes, I feel the hometown vibe.
And so it's two friends in Georgia who do a podcast about money.
Yeah. Sounds familiar, right?
Did we steal this idea from them unknowingly?
I don't think we did. I didn't knowingly steal it from them, certainly.
Well, clearly they're not offended because Joel's coming on the show. All right. Well, great. Let's get started. Let's get him on the line.
Hey, Joel. So we really appreciate you doing this.
I'm happy to chat. I'm glad to do it.
Yeah. How did you and Matt decide who was going to do it?
Short straw. No, I'm just kidding.
Well played.
I enjoy doing these things, and
Okay.
he is less enthusiastic.
Oh, okay. Nice. Well, that works out well.
Just in general, he's like, yeah, why don't you do it?
Yeah. No, I like it. Yeah.
If you want him to do it another time, I'm sure.
No.
he'd be
I
more
was,
than happy.
I can totally respect that you guys divide and conquer and, can't probably have very limited time. So we were super happy to, you were our first choice anyways, Joel, just to be clear. We just didn't want to hurt Matt's feelings, but we really wanted you all along. So
I appreciate
well.
that. Well, I mean, I love the guy, but I'm obviously better. So.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. In many ways. So I'll tell you a funny story just to kick us off, Joel. When you agreed to do this, we were super excited. And I know you guys I know you and your co-host, Matt, like to drink a craft beer on every episode. And so I was telling Mike, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we all drank a craft beer on this episode? And I'll get one of our favorite beers to him and have it arrive on his doorstep already cold, an hour or two before the podcast. And then I was like, well, I don't know where he lives. I think I know one person who might know him through LinkedIn that I noticed. And I was like, I guess I could probably find out where he lived. And then I was just like, I don't know, this is getting a little stalkerish. Maybe I should just pump the brakes and just do the interview. But I did wear a t-shirt of my favorite beer for you.
Oh, I can't really see. What is it?
Prometheus from Three Taverns Brewery in Atlanta.
Yeah, Three Taverns. It's a wonderful local brewery. By the way, I'm not usually okay with stalkers, but if they're trying to give me beer, that's the only time it really works.
I kind of figured it might be okay, you'd excuse it for that,
Exactly. Totally.
Well, we'll do it as a follow-up thank you if you feel comfortable enough letting us know where you live to drop off the beer as a thank you. So. Well,
now it's got to be at least a 6-pack. That's my minimum threshold.
Definitely.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Maggie's also going to stand outside your house saying, do you like it? Is it good? Tell me about it.
Well, as you know, you've heard the show. We like to describe our beers. I'm always nervous that people are like, why do these nerds talk about what they're tasting in the beer? Because hearing someone else talk about how good a beer is never nearly as good as having one itself. So I'm like, do people feel left out? Is it awkward? I don't know, but it's what we do.
Yeah, I personally like it. Yeah, I think it adds just a fun and consistent element to the show. So I enjoy it. I frequently listen to you guys when I'm running though. And I will say, usually I'm always like, oh, that sounds really good. Like, I wish I had a beer right now, but I'm like on mile 2 and not going to have anything for a long time.
You got to wait a couple more miles.
Yeah. So cool. We, again, really appreciate you coming on the show. And maybe we could just jump in and have you kick us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself, just so our listeners get to know you a bit.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, my name's Joel, and I like to drink beer. Good craft beer, not crummy macro beer. But I also really like to talk about money. And so my best buddy, Matt, and he lives 6 blocks down the road. We just kind of bonded over a mutual love for personal finances and craft beer. And so one day we said, let's start a podcast and drink a beer while we talk about money. So we did that. We started that about 2.5 years ago. We've been going at it ever since, and it's been a lot of fun to get to create something like that with your best buddy. As you guys know, getting to create something with a good friend, it like ramps everything up a notch. So yeah, we've been doing that, and it's just a blast to get to talk about personal finances, to get to see people respond and see people impacted, because personal finances have just such a massive effect on our entire lives. And when people are able to handle their money well, when they're able to get in control of their finances, it starts to impact all these other areas. And it's really fun to see that we can kind of have this impact, this small impact on something that it's like the spokes of a wheel that just like radiates out to all these other areas of a person's life. So that's what we do.
I like that metaphor. So what about where you're from? Do you have any kids? Are you married? What's your home life like?
Yeah, so
Speaking of stalker, Mike, like, what's your social security?
Well, so yeah, I live in the Atlanta area, and I'm married. My wonderful wife, Emily, and I have 3 children together, 2 girls and an 8-month-old boy. And so, yeah, that's kind of my home life. We like to ride bikes together. We like to go on hikes and explore the neighborhood, and yeah, just kind of normal family stuff. When I'm not podcasting or reading about money or doing other people's podcasts like this, usually we're hanging out and playing and doing fun stuff together.
Yeah, nice. We've got a lot of girls in our families also. I've got 3 girls and Mike's got 2 girls. So looks like you kept going until you got a boy. So
yeah, and my co-host Matt had 3 girls and then finally got a boy. Our boys were born 2 days apart. Wow. So it's kind of oddly linked in so many ways.
That's awesome. So one thing that we like to ask everybody about who comes on our show, Joel, is just a little bit about, your childhood and kind of how you were raised from a financial aspect and how that impacted your views on money.
Yeah, so that question goes pretty deep for me.
Yeah.
Actually. And it is a huge part of the reason why money is so important to me and why I think about it so much. And at times it's had a really negative impact on how I think about money. And I think now that I've had a lot more years to kind of grapple with how I want to think about money and how I think it should impact my life, I look back at it now as kind of like a positive. But yeah, my parents had a lot of money issues growing up. They argued about money quite a bit. And then when I was about 12 or 13, they filed for bankruptcy. And so I remember when I was a kid, and our car was going to be repossessed, but we didn't know when. And so we were just kind of waiting for it to happen. And I just remember that kind of hanging like a cloud over our family. And then I remember the day that it was gone. It was just it was really weird. And so, yeah, I just remember thinking, I was at this really impressionable age. I have an older sister and a younger sister. My older sister was in high school. She was dating boys. She was working. My younger sister was just too young to really understand what was going on. And I was just at this perfect age where it hit me in a really big way. It made a lasting impression. And so I was like, I don't ever want money to get in the way of my life. I don't ever want money to be an issue in my marriage. And so, yeah, it left a really big impression. I think for a long time, I was really miserly with money, and I wasn't very generous, and I didn't want to take much risk with money, and I'm still probably pretty conservative, I would say, because of the impact that left on me. But that was a huge part of the reason I was like, I want to handle money well. I just don't want it to be a source of contention. And then when it came to giving money advice, I was like, that's one of the driving points behind what I do. Is like, I want money not to be a contentious topic for people. I want people to be able to talk about it. And because that's such a taboo in our society, it's that people have a hard time. We're more willing to talk about sex. We're more willing to talk about almost anything than we are about money. That's something that's a big hang up for us. So I want it to be an open, and I want to kind of help make that possible for people.
Yeah, I love that. And first off, I appreciate you sharing, a very personal and vulnerable story just about your childhood. And I love the points you hit, and just that the way you were ending on the value in talking about money with people and it not being a contentious topic. And, that is one of the things that, Mike and I talk a lot about. And it's how we first became friends at work, was having a lot of these discussions around money and personal finance, and realizing it was something we were both interested in. And we created a friendship that was much deeper than the average friendship, quite honestly, that you create, particularly in a work setting where you're having conversations somewhat on the surface about reality TV, or, what you're watching on TV, or, other things that are not as sort of meaningful as like what you consider important in life and what your goals are in life and things like that.
You're saying Tiger King's not meaningful. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm
I just, on a run today, listened to you guys, and I'll be honest, sometimes I get confused about which one of you is talking until one of you drops the other person's name, and then I'm like, oh, okay. And one of you had said, I just listened to a show today when I was on a run earlier, and one of you had said that you could only get through one episode of Tiger King. Was that you or Matt?
That was me. That was
you.
Yeah. I'm like the only American that stopped at episode 1.
Tiger King is like, I have watched the whole season. It's been a big discussion at work over the past couple months, but also we've all been like stuck at home. So a lot of things are discussions lately that wouldn't normally be. But I will say, it's not the best quality TV by any means, but it gets better after the first episode. It turns into like a murder mystery, which makes it a little bit more interesting. So, not that you should go back to it.
I couldn't even get past the first 30 minutes of the first episode.
Like, it's not.
I tried watching it 4 or 5 times. I'm just like, what is everybody talking about? I cannot get into this.
It just gets so much better. Like, you see the dude singing country music video. There's just so many things where you're just like, is this really happened to somebody? And anyways, I'm not there's way better stuff to watch than that. I mean, we're watching Money Heist right now. It's great. I recommend that over Tiger King.
Okay. All right. I'll put that one on my watch list.
Yeah, we just got into it. It's really, really
Is
good.
it about personal finance?
It actually, it's about a money heist. So I think we could parlay it into being something about personal finance. Okay, let's get back to Joel.
The Ocean's movies were about personal finances, I guess.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Okay, so tell us a little bit. I know your podcast was first called Poor Not Poor. It doesn't come out right when I say it that way, but like P-O...
That's why we had to change the name, because it was really hard to understand. And yeah, it was basically pour a beer, don't be poor. And it wasn't necessarily, I think too, it kind of came across a little wrong because it's not really a joke to be poor, but basically we're trying to live a rich life. And so we were like, have a beer. And because that's one of the important things about our show is like we have a beer because it's something that we really enjoy. And sometimes they're expensive beers. And I think sometimes in the personal finance movement, it can be all about deprivation. It can be like, quit spending money on everything that matters to you so that you can, retire as early as possible. And, your life's probably going to suck for the next 10 years while you're trying to get there. But then you'll have made it. But what will you have made it to, I guess, is the question. And so, we're like, let's enjoy a couple things that we really love in this life now, while during the years that these years matter too. And so, but the name changed because it was so hard to convey that. And How to Money it's just easier.
It certainly is more clear. Well, you just answered my question. I was just curious what made you guys change the name to How to Money. So
that was really it. Yeah, it was really like we have to explain it every single time.
Yeah,
it was kind of tough. Not only did we have to explain what it meant, but then we had to explain how you spell it. well, how did you get to that website, Poor Not Poor? Because it's two different kinds of poor. It was annoying.
I like it. Well, How to Money is definitely much more clear.
So you mentioned this kind of like, this came together. You and Matt decided to do this podcast about money. This was a topic you were passionate about. But before you actually made the decision, did you have kind of the idea that you wanted to do some sort of podcast, or did you know that you wanted to do something with money and then chose a podcast as your medium? Like, in what steps did those decisions get made?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I have worked in radio, in traditional media for a long time. So I've been in radio for basically 15 years. And because of that, I've just always loved, like when I was a kid, I used to fall asleep listening to talk radio shows. I've always been obsessed with the medium of audio, long form spoken audio, because there's a connection that can be made in long form audio that can't be made on TV. It can't be made in almost any other way. When you're putting out a long form audio show 2-3 times a week, people that consistently listen really get to know you, and it's really intimate. And I love that format. And so working in traditional radio and then getting into podcasts myself, I was like, well, gosh, it's so easy just to start up a podcast. It's so much harder to get on a traditional radio station. Let's just start one. Let's put it out there and see what happens. And so, yeah, there's just no barrier to entry. You can buy a super cheap mic and record into a super cheap recording device. And, hosting's nearly free. And so it's just, it's one of those things like, give it a shot. I've always liked the idea of having that kind of show. And then money just it was a thing that Matt and I were just so passionate about, that had just had such an influence on both of our lives. And we wanted to be able to share some of the knowledge that we had and be able to talk about one of our favorite subjects together. So it was kind of serendipitous that I'd had this background that really worked in order to be able to start a podcast, and then we both had this passion on the topic side. So yeah, that's kind of how it began.
Yeah, that's great.
I like it. So how did you meet Matt, Joel?
So Matt and I have been friends for, I guess, about a decade, and we live in the same neighborhood. He lives about 6 blocks from me. We go to church together, and our kids go to the same school. Like, we both got first graders and pre-K kids. So yeah, our oldest 2 girls are the same ages, and they're like best friends. Our little dudes are 2 days apart. So our families just do a lot together. Our wives are best friends too.
Did you meet him in the neighborhood though?
Yeah.
Like that's where you first found him.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. I say found him like he was like sitting on the curb. Yeah. You were like, hey boy, come do a podcast with me.
I cleaned him off, took him home.
You didn't cut his hair though, because it looks like it's got a lot of hair there, right?
Somebody should.
That was a compliment, Matt. In case you're listening, I like your hair. You got a lot of style going. It's going in a lot of direct. It's very cool. Cooler than any haircut I've ever had, or that Mike's ever gonna have. So
Matt's got some hipster tendencies. I'm not gonna lie, but he does it well.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad thing. Okay, so can you tell us just a little bit more about the podcast? Like, you talked about how, it was so easy to start up a podcast, and we would agree with you just based on, our limited experience over the past, 5 months in this. But you didn't just start a podcast because it's easy to start a podcast. You have like a really big following, and I have no idea what the real numbers are, but I'm going to go with really big following, and you've grown this.
A lot of people to listen, basically. It costs a lot of money, forcing people to listen, essentially.
Yeah, your kids.
Exactly. Can you download that a couple times? That's been really fortunate. Like, that was kind of serendipity, really, too. Where I guess Matt and I have been doing it for 6-7 months, and we'd amassed a small, healthy following, and we were like, cool, it's going somewhere, something's happening, and we're having fun, so it's great. And then Matt's a guy that Matt used to work with is friends with one of the hosts of Stuff You Should Know, which is the most downloaded podcast of all time. And so Matt was like, hey, can you get him to listen to our show? And he did. And he was like, hey, I think you guys have something here. And then we'd like to talk some more about what it would look like for you guys to come on our podcasting label. And really linking up with them really helped us find our audience. Basically, the hardest thing is to ask people to listen to your show. And, there were a lot of people that listened to it and they were like, that's not for me. And we got a lot of 1-star reviews right then. But a lot of other people were like, you know what, this is for me. I like this show and I care about money, and these guys aren't too bad. So they count. So yeah, that was really fortunate because, you know, we were building up over 6 or 7 months, but it's really hard. It really, to try to find your people and to get the word out about what you're doing is the hardest part in starting a podcast, right? And so that sort of megaphone to let people know that the show existed and to at least check it out was a huge part in helping us to continue to do it.
That's great. So one of the things I really like about your show is you have a very balanced and unbiased approach to how you cover all the options people have within a particular topic about money. So I'm interested, what is your personal philosophy? You talked about the extreme angle of fire that can take sometimes. So like, where do you fall on the spectrum? Like, what are your kind of go-to habits? What are your strategies?
So I would say I lean pretty hard in the fire direction, but I'm not like hook, line, and sinker all the way. And when I say I lean really hard, that means I want to live life and save enough money to where I'm enjoying the present moment, right? Where I'm not forsaking the things that I love, like craft beer, and oftentimes those things don't cost much money. Really, my beer line item in the budget is like $50 to $60 a month.
That was one of my questions, was how much do you spend a month on beer?
Yeah, probably $60 a month. And I've allowed myself to increase that over time. But I used to kind of alternate between good beer and bad beer. And I was like, I just don't ever want to drink bad beer again.
Yeah.
And so I just
life's too short.
Right. Yeah. And so I vacillate somewhere in between there because I think sometimes the fire movement can go towards I just want to quit work as early as possible because work's bad. I think sometimes, not always, but sometimes there can be that unhealthy view of work. I like work. I just want to 100% be able to choose what I do, when I do it, who I do it for. And so that's one of my main goals behind saving and investing well. And so, yeah, I mean, I also, we talked about on the show, I do real estate investing just locally. I have five homes that I manage, and that's a really nice way, I think, to be able to build wealth. And it also, if you're into fire, if you're into being able to retire early, there are so many rules when it comes to taking money out of your tax advantage retirement accounts early. But the great thing about owning individual properties is that you're getting income every single month. So I like that for people, especially that want to retire early, as a strategy to be investing in real estate locally. That can have a major impact on allowing you to quit early if you want to. But I think, yeah, really it's just this holistic mindset of creating a life, and it comes down to so much more than money, creating a life that you want to live now. And I have to be honest too, I don't get this right all the time. Sometimes I work more than I want to, and sometimes trying to find that balance is a constant thing. So I think sometimes too, when people talk about it, it can sound like, oh, I found nirvana, I found the place, I found that perfect balance, and that's never the case. But striving to live that life that is balanced and incorporates the things that I care about now, while saving and investing really, really well for the future, and putting, maxing out my 401k, maxing out my Roth IRA, trying to buy properties every couple of years. That's kind of the way I approach my investments and kind of my philosophy too.
Yeah, I like it. Thanks for sharing. I think we have a lot of similar views in the sense of, we're pretty frugal ourselves, but we also want to enjoy life. And there's certain categories that, similar to your passion for beer and willingness to, spend real money on good beer. I think there's a lot of categories where it's okay to spend money on the things you really care about, but most people don't care about everything, right? So they don't need to spend money, ridiculous money in every category of their life. So it's all a trade-off. Okay, so I want to switch gears briefly. So for those who don't know, Joel works for Clark Howard. That's the show that he is a senior producer on. How did you end up working for Clark Howard, and just what did that look like? How did that develop?
Yeah, so that was, I interned at WSB Radio in Atlanta, which is kind of one of the bigger radio stations in the country, for a conservative talk radio host named Neil Bortz, who's now retired. And so I did that, while I was in college, and I ended up, there weren't any jobs available there when I graduated. So I ended up working down the street, and it was a bad situation. And I quit 5 months in to go on a road trip around the country with one of my buddies. And I thought I was going to move somewhere else in the country, but it turned out there was this job position open at WSB, and I was on the West Coast, and I was like, well, I'm coming home for Christmas. I'll apply for it. We'll see what happens. And I ended up, it ended up just being this kind of perfect fit in so many ways. I got really fortunate because I was a newbie, and I didn't have a whole lot to offer when I was 22. But I got really fortunate to get linked up with Clark. And I think part of what helped me develop more of a positive attitude towards money, because I said I kind of become miserly. I kind of had probably more of a negative view towards money, as in essentially make it like, I'm trying to think of what my mindset was like back then. It was just, I didn't have a really fully formed concept of what it looked like to earn money, and then also to give money away and be generous, and also save and invest for the future. I didn't have a good concept of all those things. And Clark really has such wisdom when it comes to money, and such thoughtfulness. I learned quite a bit, and working because he's a consumer advocate. He talks about saving and spending and investing, and working for him for the last 14 years has really helped me develop a sense of what money should look like in a healthy person's life. And so, yeah, I've been really fortunate to know him, to work with him, and to learn just so much too, working with him.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to kind of hear how it came about is interesting. For those who don't know, and I grew up listening to Clark Howard. Like, I remember when I was in early high school and throughout college listening to him, and I always had kind of an interest in money. And so I listened to his radio show a lot, which I don't know if there were like a lot of high schoolers listening to Clark Howard back then, but I was one of them. And so for those outside of Atlanta, I think his name is known, globally and well beyond Atlanta. But for those who aren't in Atlanta, you may not kind of just know how long Clark Howard's been around. He's just kind of an icon in this space. So I would imagine just, there's a lot that you kind of get to learn and soak up from him.
I think Clark's forgotten more than I could ever hope to learn. He's kind of got this memory for anything financial that he's ever talked about too. His mind's like a steel trap. It's pretty ridiculous, and he reads so much. You could ask him. I'm constantly amazed at not only his just skill behind the microphone, but at his just depth of knowledge on so many financial subjects. So on our show, we do our thing. We enjoy it. We try to bring some knowledge in there too. But I will say we're not nearly as informed as Clark, and as much of a depth of financial knowledge. That guy is insane. He's brilliant.
Do you know what he thinks of your podcast? Like, does he listen?
I don't think he does. No, I don't know if
he's a busy guy. I wouldn't take it personally. So.
He is. No, yeah, I don't think he's listened, but he does. He's got a lot going on, and you know what? He's always been supportive of anything I've ever tried to do. He asks about it from time to time, and I'm like, yeah, things are going good. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm sure if he listens, he would like it.
Okay, another hard-hitting question, Joel. Is Clark Howard a nice boss?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm just seriously. I was just joking. You really don't have to answer that.
But that is always the first question that people ask. They say, "Is he exactly like he is on the radio?"
Yeah.
Because you kind of got this like really, really uber kind radio persona. So people are like, "Is he actually really that nice?"
Yeah. Does he turn the mic off and is like, "God, just"?
Yeah, he just starts cussing me out. No, not at all. He really is just this best, most generous boss somebody could work for. So part of the reason I've been there 14 years, right? He's really, really, really good to his employees.
Yeah, that definitely says something for sure.
So Joel, you mentioned real estate investing, and you seem to be doing quite a bit of it, 5 properties. Do you have any other side hustles, or maybe any earlier side hustles that you used to do and graduated from?
Ooh, the earliest side hustles. Well, when I first started working for Clark, I was 22. I was working part-time. I did pressure washing on the side. So, I don't know. I've always, my parents are super hard workers, and I've learned a lot from them in that regard. And so, always holding myself up to that standard. I don't think I ever meet it, but, I've always enjoyed working. And so the podcast is like, cool. I can work in radio during the day and podcast at night or, other times as well. So I'm always up for a little bit of something extra, especially as long as it's fun. And when you get to work in what you love, doing what you love, if it's fun, then it doesn't really feel like work. And that's part of the reason, I guess, too, I'm not sold on the idea of quitting work super early, because I'm like, man, I'm working in broadcast. It's like, it's super fun. Why would you want to leave that? But then again, at the same time, right? Like, you want to have your own choices. And in particular, things with radio, who knows? I mean, I got into radio 12 years ago and people were predicting its demise, and it's been on a steady decline. But how long will the radio station be around? I don't know. And I don't want to be forced to take something, to be forced into an industry that I don't want to be in if the radio decline happens faster than I think it's going to. But those are the way I'm on it. Let's see, other side hustles. It's really just the podcast right now and the rental properties, which I think is enough.
Yeah. I was thinking when you said something at the beginning of this answer where you said something like you're not sure if you live up to the work ethic that your parents had or something. And I was thinking, like, you have a full-time job, you have 3 kids, you run a successful podcast that's pumping out like multiple episodes a week lately. You have 5 rental properties. Like, you seem to have some pretty strong work ethic, Joel. So I wouldn't sell yourself short there.
All right. Well, you have them with my parents, Maggie. So.
True. I'd like to meet them soon when I come over to bring you beer, so we could just kind of arrange that all at once. So.
Done. I'll invite them over too.
Never too soon to meet your parents.
Right.
So, did you ever wrap your car?
Yes.
Do you even know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I wrapped my car.
Okay, so that was like an early side hustle.
That's true. That was a little side hustle. I'm always up for like a semi-odd extra way to make cash or an interesting way to save money. I don't really have any shame when it comes to the saving money game. There's not really anything. I remember getting some listener feedback from talking about wrapping my car, and they were like, really? Dude, that's kind of, that's shabby. Your neighbors are going to think you're weird. Like, they already think that, so who really cares? And so, yeah, I wrapped my car in like an advertisement, and
was it Honey Boo Boo Child?
No, so I just missed out on the Honey Boo Boo show campaign by like, a day or two, sadly. So I had to settle for a Salesforce campaign.
Oh, that feels a little more respectable for the neighborhood,
Yeah. I'm sure I got less hate because it was something a little more corporate-y. But yeah, I got paid by the mile for driving. By the way, a lot of the car wrapping, at like the sites and you'll get an email or a text or something for it. Almost all of them are scams. There are very few legit car wrapping companies, but there's a company called Wrapify, Wratify, and they are legit. And I actually got paid hundreds of dollars. The sad thing is I don't really drive a whole lot. I try to bike as much as possible. And so because I'm not in my car a whole lot, and even when I am, I'm going about a 6-mile commute one way. So I wasn't driving enough to get paid as much as I would have liked to. But yeah, I made, $300 I think from wrapping my car for a few months. But people who commute 25 miles each way in a major city every day, they're going to make decent money wrapping their car.
That's so interesting. I love to go back and listen to people's like first episodes just to hear, kind of what kind of things they were talking about. And that was what I heard like last week was you guys talking about, wrapping your car and digging out, maybe it was Matt digging out his basement. Like I said, I have trouble telling who's talking sometimes.
He said he was going to. He never did.
Oh, never did it. Okay, I'm curious because you said this in one of your early episodes, and you just said it again now. What is like one or two of the craziest things other than wrapping your car that you've done or do to save money?
Oh, this is a question much better asked of my wife.
That's okay. You can take credit for something she does if you want.
No, I'm saying.
Oh, you mean she would know what's, yeah.
Oh, she would instantly be able to tell you.
Oh, get her in here, Joel. Bring her over. What's she doing right now?
Yeah, I know, right? No, she could totally rat me out. And there are all sorts of little weird ways I try to save money sometimes. And I've gotten better over the years, I think, at being less, like, of letting certain things go. I think early on in our marriage, that was a hard thing because I was like, let's not do this and let's do, like, I had all these thoughts going on in my mind about how we were going to save money or how we were going to invest money. And I think sometimes my wife got lost in the shuffle.
Calm down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Chill, dude. And so I'm trying to think. One thing I know she would probably tell you is, like, when she's buying running shoes, she knows that I really like to help her find the best price on them. So
and she just wants the shoes she wants, probably.
She just wants the shoes, and so we've come to this compromise that when she needs them, she's like, these are the ones I want. I don't want you buying something crappy or another brand or in the wrong size. I want you to buy these shoes, but go for it and shop and get whatever deal you can.
I like how she has to clarify to you not to change the size because you can get a better deal when she's like, that's not my shoe size. Like, you would consider that. Like, you could just put some extra thick socks on or something, you know?
Right. Yeah. Like, they're a little tight. Oh, it hurts.
I love it. So, have you ever cut the end off like a toothpaste container before?
I don't think I've done that.
Oh man, Joel, you can get like another 3 weeks of toothpaste out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than willing to, roll it from the bottom and squeeze it up super tight. Definitely do that.
But then when you're done with that, cut it open and see what you get. I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. I'm going to
give it a try. We did a whole episode on crazy frugal things recently where we admitted all the like weird things we do to save money.
So Maggie, I did that. I put like a clamp, like a plastic bag clamp on the end of my toothpaste and have been slowly squeezing it out. Swear to God, 3 extra weeks. You're totally right.
I'm serious. I have one right now that's cut open, and I've been working on it since like almost the beginning of the quarantine.
It's really mind blowing.
And it'll kind of dry out, but
also only brushes her teeth like twice a week. So
well, now that I don't go to work, right? Yeah, you did the math there, Joel. Now that I don't go to work, like, what's really the point in brushing your teeth?
Right? Exactly.
I put it in the same category as showering during the quarantine. Which, by the way, Joel, I took a shower tonight just because I was like, you know what? I might need to like look presentable since we're doing an interview.
Yeah, so Maggie gets on video a few minutes before you showed up, and she's like, you notice anything different about me? Uh-huh. And I'm like, no, you look exactly the same. She's like, I took a shower.
Well, Mike's on video with me all day during the day for work calls, and I usually have my hair in a ponytail. I'm looking kind of scruffy, and I just don't care. And so it was a big deal. Also, it's my husband's birthday today. That was the other reason I took a shower. I didn't mean to schedule you on his birthday. It was an accident. But then once I had done it, I was like, well, and he was cool about it. He was like, whatever, it's fine. You can wish him a happy birthday if you want, Joel. His name's Greg.
What's his name?
Greg.
Greg, yeah. Happy birthday.
Okay, he's going to be excited. He's going to be like, who's Joel? But thanks. No, he knows who you are. I listen to you in the car sometimes, so he's a big fan. Okay, let's keep moving. You already told us your beer budget. That was one of our questions. So, like, how are you guys dealing through this quarantine? Kind of personally, professionally? Like, would love to kind of hear what you're seeing, how you're feeling. I know you've done some episodes on it.
Yeah, so we've dedicated our Friday episodes to talking about, and our other episodes really are hitting on it too. It's hard not for everything to kind of be tied to what's currently happening. They're just, everyone's finances are in a different spot now than they were 2 months ago. Everyone's lives are in a completely different spot than they were 2 months ago. So yeah, we've really tried to make our show relevant to that. And in particular, some of the things going on with PPP, unemployment, all the relief that's available for people. We're trying to touch on some of that stuff, although that's been a little messy, as you know. And yeah, so our show, I feel like it feels relevant in a way that during, towards the end of a 10-year bull market, it doesn't feel quite as relevant. And, Matt and I actually, just talked about frugality. It's making a comeback. Everything you're reading, just like after the Great Recession, frugality is hot right now. And people need to know the ways to save money. They there's just a greater need in their lives to be able to save $100 a month on their cell phone bill or $30 a month on their internet. Like those things matter more than they did to people 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So I feel like where we're at with the show and with the content, it almost just feels like everything that we're doing feels more important, but that information needs to get out more. When it comes to personally, I feel like it's been, I'm sure everyone has experienced this to differing degrees. It's been kind of like more of a roller coaster emotionally. I think the first couple of weeks were really hard. We were getting our bearings and trying to help kids do their schooling and trying to find kind of a new normal. And then we kind of hit a new normal and we're kind of getting used to it. But then it's just hard. Everything's changing. You know, we haven't kids not being able to see grandparents and not being able to see their friends and not being able to go to school. It's all hard stuff. And then, you know, date nights are usually how my wife and I connect every other week. And with that not being just part of the norm, we're having more like impromptu hangs and beer hangs on the front porch. But that date night, there was something about getting out of the house and connecting. And with that not happening, it's like, it just changes the dynamic. And so we have to be even more intentional right now. So I would say, I think we found a really good rhythm, but it's not, we had to try. We had to work at it in order to get there. And
tell me the age of your kids again. I know one was just recently born, the boy.
Yeah, 6, 4, and 8 months.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, cause ours are, I just forgot the ages of my kids all of a sudden, but like basically 8, 9, and 11. They're pretty self-sufficient. I mean, they don't necessarily remember what I just told them to do 10 minutes ago, but they're not like, I don't have to like make sure they're going to like, you know, jump off the back deck or something. Like they're safe and I can kind of ignore them for 4 hours and know that they're just, they've just decided to go play Legos instead of do e-learning anymore. But when you have a 4-year-old and a baby or a toddler, right, it's a whole nother game of, just the level that you have to actually keep an eye on them and entertain them all day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Young kids. So much fun, but it's also tiring. You know, by the time they're in bed, we look at each other and we're like, are we going to bed right now? I mean, that's how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you.
So if you had to do it all over again in regards to money, would you change anything about the way you approached it in your life?
Dude, Mike always coming out with the deep questions. Man, would I change anything? Yeah, I probably would. I feel like more than anything, I would want to be more generous, and I still want to be more generous. I think there's something really important about giving some of your money away. There's a healthy detachment you can get from your money by giving it to local organizations, nonprofits, people in need, and seeing your money do good work in the community around you. I think I would prioritize that earlier, and I still need to be better about prioritizing that well. So, yeah, I mean, because I feel like real estate investing has been great for me. I mean, if anything, like if I would probably go back and buy more houses 5, 6, 7 years ago too, if I could. But for more than anything, I think giving money away to have a healthier, better view of it is what I would go back and do.
That's great.
I
thought you were going to say, definitely not wrap my car.
No way, man. I was all about the $300 for that. That was totally worth it.
Yeah, I liked how Matt was like, but when you were talking about it, Matt was like, there's no way I would do that. But you were just like, so, like, I'm definitely going to do it. Like, I've got the app. They're monitoring my driving. Like, I love it. And you were going to let them put Honey Boo Boo Child on your car.
I would have preferred it. I would have loved the awkward wrap. I'm all about causing a controversy. That is, I mean, controversy is my middle name, basically. I'm all about doing some weird stuff and setting the world on fire to make some extra money.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we got a couple. There's our last questions. They're hard-hitting questions, so get ready, Joel. They're both related to beer. The first one is, what's your favorite beer?
Like asking which child is my favorite?
Yeah, well, I also want to know which child's your favorite, so get ready.
My 4-year-old, definitely my favorite right now. Her name's Polly. She's super sweet.
Aww.
I don't know, the 8-month-old. They're all great. How can I choose? But my favorite beer, any IPA from Wrecking Bar, which is right down the street from where I live. I believe they just announced on Instagram that they have a strawberry milkshake IPA that I'm kind of dying to get over there and get. It's $22 for a 4-pack. You got to be kidding me. That's very expensive, but I'll spend it because
I bet it's worth it.
Are you hinting that Maggie should get you this and drop it off at your house?
Joel,
is this?
Let me just say,
we'll do it.
I just think I need to be clear so we don't both go and buy it. Like, that will be at your house by the weekend if you let me know where you live, just so you know. Or it's going to be on somebody's porch in Ormwood Park, so I'm not sure whose.
Just ask around. People be like, where's the guy that had that car wrap? And they'll be like, oh, it's that weirdo in the White House on the corner.
Where's the Salesforce house?
They'll know where to point you. Exactly. Anything by that brewery, though.
Okay, so I like it. So different angle, but similar question. If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be? Okay.
Probably there's a brewery out of Michigan called Old Nation. They have a double IPA called Boss Tweed. It's ludicrously good. It's so good. And it's one of those where I don't think I could ever get tired of drinking it. So if I always had that in my fridge, I'd be a happy dude.
I love it. Here, I can tell you like IPAs. Do you ever repeat the beers that you have on the show? Or is it like new every time?
I think we have once or twice. We try not to. But yeah, I mean, there's so many beers out there now. There's no need to replay any beers.
It seems like you're often gifted beer too. Like you guys are frequently like, hey, our buddies from so-and-so sent us this.
Yes, which is super great. I mean, our listeners have, they're into beer too, a lot of them. And so they'll send us some of their favorites and we get to try beers from all over the country that we otherwise wouldn't get to try. Some people that listen work for a brewery, and so they'll send us some of their breweries' beers. Yeah, we've been really lucky to get to try some really cool stuff from all around the country. So yeah, when we're gifted beers, that's pretty amazing. But right now we're trying to buy local beers too to have on the show just because, yeah, like $22 for a 4-pack. I'm so happy to buy that because that's one of my favorite places. And if it shuts down,
you're supporting a local business.
Yeah. So I want to make sure
I like it.
They stay around.
Okay, Mike, question for you. What's your favorite beer?
That's a good question.
Is it like PBR? Something from Aldi?
Yeah, I do.
You want a second? I'll tell you mine.
Oh yeah, you think of yours.
Okay, my favorite beer is definitely, and this is in the last like year since I've discovered it, and they keep making it. 3 Taverns, which is the shirt I'm wearing. They have a sour beer, which by far sour beers are my favorite. They have a sour beer called Earl Grey, it's called Lord Grey. It is an Earl Grey infused sour beer, and it is really good. And there's times when they're out of it, and then they're like making another batch, and then I'll stock up. But right now, it's like fully in stock at most stores around Atlanta, so it's delicious.
I don't remember if I've had that one or not, but I love 3 Taverns. I'm gonna have to have that one again because if I have, it's been too long and I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's really good, and they have amazing artwork on their beer, which I'm always a sucker for like a good design.
Me too.
All right, I think I got mine.
Okay, what you got?
Tropicalia. Is that the name of it?
Okay. Yeah.
I think I like it the most because it has a really pretty can. To be honest, I'm not super into beer like you guys, but
it does. Why am I going blank on the name of the Athens brewery that makes it?
Creature Comforts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Creature Comforts.
I do like their other beers as well.
Awesome. Okay, a lot of nice local breweries.
They have one called Athena Paradiso that's got 3 different kinds of like red berry, like I think it's got cherries and raspberries in it.
That's their sour, right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's good.
Now, Joel, if you'd like to buy me a pack of that and leave it on my house step, I will give you my address. No problem.
I don't know if Joel knows how to make it OTP. You know?
Wait, no, John Woody, you're pretty close to Buford Highway.
Yep.
So I'll totally make it up there.
You're right. Yeah, there's good food. Good food on Buford Highway.
Some Mexican food or some hand-pulled noodles, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Joel, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This has been a great discussion. We know life is particularly busy these days, so we just really appreciate you taking some time to talk with us.
Hey, I was happy to do it. It was a lot of fun. And when I come back on at some point, hopefully quarantine is over and we can do it in person. Sound good?
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I look forward
Thank
to
you
it.
so much, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
All right. Thanks for listening today. If you have any questions or comments, you can always give us a call or text us at 404-981-3370. Love to get a question, comment, or tip, and we will play it on the air.
Awesome. You can also follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and you can find those links on our website at www.friendsonfire.org.
Please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, wherever you listen to this podcast. It really helps other people find our show.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Maggie.
Bye.
Bye.